What up, folks? What it do? You welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. I'm your host, comedian Mike Goodwin, the bow-tied comedian, and I just want to say thank you for tuning in for another episode, another fun-filled episode. So, as you know, we start every episode with the On the Road Again segment. And I was on the road again this past week. Had two shows, two of my favorite shows to perform comedy. One is a date night. I love doing date night comedy shows. I just think that couples need opportunities just to be able to hang out and enjoy a night of entertainment. So one of my personal favorite types of shows is date night comedy shows, especially when I do shows. I do a lot of shows at churches, so they are a limited number of the type of events that churches will host. You know, most times when I'm being requested, I guess over the years, I mean, I think it's kind of narrowed down recently, but over the years, you are invited to youth events. So those are basically either youth services or youth gatherings. I talk about what would be known as a hell gig. One of the worst experiences I've had was something called the fifth quarter. Fifth quarter is basically churches, I think. I don't know if anybody else is participating in this, but churches do an outreach for young folks. And they typically will do it during football season after a football game, because a lot of times we realize that young people want to hang out after football games. And so many churches have tried to fill in that gap to provide some form of activity for young folks to come in a safe, structured environment. But they have all the stuff. They'll have games, laser tag. They'll have video games. They'll have popcorn and snacks. And they'll have foosball. And it just will be a lot of activity. Well, one particular night, someone thought it would be good to have comedy at a fifth quarter. And a buddy of mine, Marty Simpson, talked to me and another comedian. Well, you don't really have to talk comedians into gigs, especially when you're starting out. You just present it and say, hey, man, we got an opportunity to do this. And you're like, oh, that sounds like a train wreck, but sign me up. So the fifth quarter was one of those experiences. So you have youth events for children and teens. And that could be a conference, that could be a service, variety of things. The other thing you can do is pastor appreciations. Pastor appreciations that typically involve a banquet, a gala, some type of event where folks will buy a ticket. And then comedy will be included in the program. They have a number of opportunities for entertainment throughout the course of the night, but comedy can be inserted, especially a good 20 to 30 minute set. Man, that's a great amount of time for stand up. And you can do other things. Men's events, so like men's conference, men's gatherings. Men's events are one of the ones I've done a lot of those over the years. Don't really know how excited I get about men's events, because men, I don't know, man. Men, in what I've experienced, I've had some great men events. So I'm not poo-pooing men events. I'm just saying, men typically can laugh a little better when their wife is there or women are around. Men's event, a lot of testosterone, and some of the men sitting there looking at you like, man, I could do that. Like, I don't know. Maybe you can do it, but you ain't doing it tonight. Sit there and laugh. So men's event, there could be a little bit of wrestling. There could be a little tussling. It's not as smooth sailing as one would anticipate. So you have, and then, you know, the topics that are being covered all the time in men event, man, is some stuff that's like, you know, that men are dealing with. Men dealing with some stuff. Or even if men aren't dealing with some stuff, they, you know, many times the way that men are ministered to, I don't know if that's the proper way, but many of the way that some folks choose to engage men can be very aggressive, can be very in your face. I know you're dealing with these secret lusts and desires. And so it's a very come and get you type scenario. We're gonna come and rescue you, we're gonna come save you, we're gonna get the way you are. And so sometimes that could be a very very interesting environment to do stand-up comedy in. So men's events, you could do that, number of those at churches. They do outreaches. You'll just have to do a basic comedy show. You'll do a comedy show, free comedy show for the community. Folks come out, and whosoever will, let them come. And so those people will come out to the show. But then you also have women's events. Now, women event, I'm telling you, I just did MomCon in San Diego. Anytime I do women's event, women come out to have a good time. Ladies' night out, mom's night out, girls' night out. They're having fun. They're not coming out to be somber, to be angry, to get into fights with people. They coming out to have a good time. So women's events probably are in the top 3 of my most desired events. Women's events. You do however you want to do it. Prayer breakfast. You want to do women's luncheon, brunch. If you got a room full of women, sign me up for those jokes, buddy, because women enjoy laughing and fellowshipping, and I enjoy entertaining. So it's a perfect match. Then the other event is volunteer or dream team events that the church hosts for the folks that serve in the ministry, serve in various capacities. I really enjoy those events. Number one, because that's how I got started doing stand-up. I was serving in the media ministry at my church. And Akintunde, who was a comedian at the time, was serving alongside of me and pretty much aggressively encouraged me to start doing stand-up. So there's a special soft spot in my heart for dream team appreciation, volunteer appreciation, any type of event in which churches recognize the folks that serve in the ministries. And then the number one, clearly, as I said, date night. You know, many churches will do a date night event, and they'll have couples, whether it's connected to a marriage conference or it could be a standalone, just date night comedy night. Those are always fun. Now, there's some other ones in there. Like there's a wild game night. I've done a few of those, but those are really men's events. If you got a wild game night, they just got all these different type of meeting men. I'm not going to say anything inappropriate. I'm glad I made it through this little piece without saying inappropriate things, especially when I was talking about the women's event. I had at least 4 inappropriate comments. Not even inappropriate, just comments in which they would have been funny, but then I would have had to have a conversation with my wife. I would have had to have a conversation with my buddy, would have called, like, man, you know you ain't had to say it. So I did not release them to their destiny. I left the jokes. I let them die on the vine, but Meeting me in. That's another. So wild game nights. I've done FCA events, but FCA shows up similar to the events I was talking about. There's FCA date night. There may be FCA like just community gathering, which is basically it's a comedy show. But I had two of those this week. I had a date night that was in Branson, Missouri. So at Woodland Hills Church, Branson, Missouri. Shout out to my friend, Pastor Ted Pastor Ted Cunningham. He's the pastor and tremendous comedian. Ted is all over the country doing date night comedy shows, and he's phenomenal. Not only does he provide hilarious comedic content, he gives you real practical information on how to best serve your spouse and how to best navigate a marriage, and to give you insights and information on how to make your marriage the best marriage that it can be. So he had me in, and I did a comedy night, date night at their church. And their church is a castle, like a legitimate castle. And I posted the picture on my story. But yeah, just Google Woodland Hills Family Church in Branson, Missouri. You're going to see a castle. There's a straight up castle. And it was at night. So I really didn't get the opportunity to tour the facility. But Bronson, I think I'm saying that correctly. That's a very entertainment type place. I don't know its nicknames, but it's a place where folks. I don't like labels. Y'all have heard me say this time and time again. I'm not the guy to label folks and things, but I think about like they call Myrtle Beach the Redneck Riviera. I'm sure Bronson is somewhere in that family of redneck entertainment. I think that would be a safe thing to say, not knowing Branson. Now, I'm not, only thing I know is like the Ozarks. I watched that on Netflix. Really enjoyed that series. But Branson, yeah, there was a lot of, it's like it's like a conservative Vegas. Yeah, it's like a right-wing Vegas. I think that's a pretty accurate account of what Branson, Missouri, or on a smaller scale. Think about all the Pigeon Fords and the Dolly Worlds, like all into one place, like all of those things that are spread out around the country. Imagine all that just being concentrated in one place, and that's Branson, Missouri. And so I had the opportunity to fly out to Springfield. Springfield is about 40 miles from Branson. And I did the thing I'm not a fan. Maybe I need to start saying it. Yeah, I enjoy it. Because I'm not a fan of renting cars, man. I don't like it. I don't like it. All the cars I get in now smell like weed shop. And I gotta tell the people, hey man, you get the car and you get in and it's like cannabis. It smell all like the air freshener they use is the Sticky Icky, Mary Jane, all the names. That's what it smell like. So then I'm in the car and you're checking out, and I say, hey, you can go ahead and note this on your information, but this smells like marijuana in the car. And then the person was like, well, do you want to switch out? No, I don't want to switch out. I'm in a car. Like I got it. And I'm actually about to go over those little crazy, don't back up and tear your tires up railways. So I just smell like weed for a day. Like, but I don't know. I don't want to switch out. I have the car. We are together. But so I get the car. And when I was checking out, the guy was like, got two options. I think one was an Edge, and I forgot what the other one was. I didn't have a preference. It was like one's black, one's gray. I was like, give me the black one. Give me the black one. So I get in the car, and like I said, it's like a 40-mile drive from Springfield to Branson. 35 minutes in, lights start flashing all over the over the dashboard. Car starts like jerking. You know, like if I get to a certain speed, it starts shaking pretty violently, and I'm like, this is not good, because all I could think about is, man, I got to get up early in the morning and drive this car back. I don't know how confident I am that this car is going to make it back to Springfield. Like, it made it to Branson, but the way that this stuff was happening, you know, lights flashing, and I think, and it was a very new car. It really, car only had 3,000 miles on it, so it wasn't like it's been around the block. So part of it may be, you know, these new cars have all these sensors, and they tell you when you're not within the lines. I don't know this car. I'm not familiar with this car. It seems like the car's having a tantrum, and I don't want to parent a car that continuously has tantrum. That's not my parent style. My parent style is to corporal punishment. But you can't whoop the car. Can't whoop the car. You can whoop other things, but you can't discipline. You can't discipline the car. You can discipline other things. So I'm concerned. You know, I'm concerned. I get into Branson, this car is giving me the EBGBs. I'm like, man, I don't want to wake up again. I don't wake up in the morning and have issues, because I don't know the Uber situation from Branson to Springfield. I just didn't want those concerns. So I call, I say, hey, I got some issues with this car, roadside service people. Once I got to the hotel, and they said, well, you can switch it out at the local enterprise that's there in Branson. I was like, great. I looked, it was like 6 miles from where I was located. The person sent in the paperwork on the phone. They were like, oh, we can make a switch. Just take it down there. And even if they say they don't have anything, don't worry, because we'll send something from Springfield up. Like, we'll get you something. I was like, great. So the person called me. I went and threw my stuff in the room. I said, hey, I'll come right over. They were like, we want to know when we'll have the paperwork ready. You say, go ahead and get it ready. I'm coming. Just checking in the hotel. They said, hey, we only have Ram F-150s. And so I'm not a car guy by any stretch. But when I heard Ram F-150s, I was like, that sounds like a pickup truck. And I'm like, yeah, we just have pickup trucks. So I guess I'll be driving a pickup truck. And so that's what happened. I went and switched out my mid-size SUV for a full-size pickup truck, because I'm in Branson. I got to ride with everybody's ride. And they had it on the country music station, which I really enjoy listening to country music when it's on the station. I wouldn't say I'm a country music. I'm not a fan, but I do listen to country music. I like Chris Stapleton pretty good. He got a new song out, Ram, if I'm not mistaken. And I was listening to the country music station, and I just kept it on there. I just kept it on the station. A couple of songs that I liked, and I did the little, hey man, tell me what song this is. So I'm gonna get those songs on a playlist or something. But one thing I did notice about country music station, I've said this tremendously. I've said this a lot over the years. Man, they write some song about love. Like, I'm talking about love, not like, hey girl, I want to get you in the room and do the things that we want to do. Like, I'm not talking about that type. I'm talking about love. Like, I want to hold your hand. I want to kiss you on your forehead. I want to move your hair back. It's like, man. But then there are some other songs that it's like, I hope you die in a ditch on a rainy day. Like, there's some of those. So I have been giving country music a little bit too much credit. I can't remember this one song that they had played, but it was like, "You Not Worth the Whiskey." I think that might not be the name, but the guy was basically saying he broke up with this girl and he was out drinking, and one of his friends, her friends, saw him. It was like, "Oh, he's trying to get over this breakup." He's like, "No, man, you're not even worth the whiskey that I was drinking at the bar." So you whatever, but there are those songs. There's a number of songs that would share how much I don't love you anymore, and I'm gonna have a good time, and I'm gonna party, and I'm gonna rock and roll, and I'm gonna kick up some dust, dirt, and all that type stuff. Now those songs exist, but there are some songs that make you feel like, man, I sure wouldn't mind hugging my lady right now. Like just really heartfelt, man, I'm glad to be in a wonderful relationship type song. So I enjoyed my time. But then listen to the radio station, then there's certain things that come on the station. We're like, oh, I don't think they're for me. So that's the thing about country music. Sometimes I'll be listening, having a grand old time, and then there'll be a commercial about Dixie Outfitters, and I'm like, oh, that's I don't think that's for me. I don't think this is for me. And then some come on about Nancy Pelosi is resigning. Hey, I don't think this is. It's not for me. It's not. They're not talking to me. They don't even know I'm listening. I've heard Nancy Pelosi's name too many times this weekend for no. I'm in a football game. Somebody said Nancy Pelosi's name. I was like, what in the world? And this was actually, I'll talk about it later, but I went on the road again. When I came home, I took my son to the South Carolina-Tennessee game. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, politics in general. I'm talking about right, left, middle. Yeah, I ain't the guy. And I majored in political science, man. And I've had I guess a evolution of my political thought and comfort. But yeah, man, why am I hearing Nancy Pelosi's name on the radio station? I want to hear about some love. I want to hear about some beer and whiskey and and honky talk, badonka donk. I mean, I want. That's what they were singing about. I don't know if I necessarily want to hear about that. But so yeah, that was Branson, right? So I got to Branson, and doing the what you're not gonna do. I'm gonna talk about Branson just a wee bit more. So then that next morning, I had to get up. So they gave me my pickup truck. I went to the date night. We had a great time. It was a great, wonderful night of comedy. I had a great time. They had Pastor Ted did a bit. He had a couple play this game. There was another kind of musical comedy group called the Copes. They were hilarious. It was a great night. And it was a packed room in the castle. So I had a great night. Hustled on back. Now, the issue with Branson is it's a tourist town that closed at 9 p.m. Restaurants, it shuts it down. So I thought I was going to get back to the room, order the room service. Now, room service closed at 8:30. I think I got back to the hotel at like 9:10. So my dinner options were pretty slim. But went to bed, got up, made my way back to Springfield to catch a flight to Pittsburgh. So I was flying from Branson to Pittsburgh, which is that connections in Atlanta. So did that. Pittsburgh, I had a volunteer appreciation or dream team comedy night in West Virginia. So now the goal was to fly into Pittsburgh because it's about flights. I fly Delta. I want to fly comfortably. I got a little status. I'm close to Diamond, but not close enough. Like I'm looking at it. I think I have to the end of December, and I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I just need to probably just book all the flights that I have upcoming. And that's something I'm going to do. I'm just going to go and book all the flights. I've not had Diamond before. I've been Platinum for a while. I feel I want to get up on some of this Diamond activity. So I might just buy a flight just to see if I can sneak over into Diamond. So I try to get on the Delta flights, man. There was a point in my career where I would try to find the cheapest flight. So I would be bouncing around from American to United to Delta, Southwest, just whoever had the best numbers. But I cut that foolishness out a few years ago and say, hey, man, I'm gonna run with the one that got me here. I'm gonna go with the Delta because I enjoy Delta just in general. There's a lot of flights out of Columbia. You typically connect. It's the connection. Is Delta, you either connect in Atlanta, and American, you connect in Charlotte. And I like Atlanta. I like the Atlanta airport. I like the Delta lounges. I don't know much about American lounges. They may have some great lounges in America, but America, I've not had the best experiences. They just kind of felt like they always been nickeling and diming me. They would look at my suitcase side. They had the little measurement thing before you get on the flight. At American, they got the little template that you got to see if your bag fit. I don't like that, man, because my bag fit and it don't fit in the little thing. But I can get on the plane and fit. But you're telling me here it don't fit, so I like that. So I'm going with Delta, man. So I got a little status. So I'm trying to find flights that are comfortable, that I'm not flying in boarding main cabin X. Because if I go to other folks, man, I'm over an American, man. They board me in the last look. Servants, serfs, and commoners. That's what I board over at other airlines. At Delta, I'm in the first. I'm in the VIP at the minimum. I'm in the Sky Priority. And, most times I'll be getting a little first class or Comfort Plus. Comfort Plus is expected, but not in American. So I flew from Branson to Pittsburgh. So I flew into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is like 2 hours from where I was supposed to be in West Virginia. Had an event in Clarksburg, West Virginia, Clarksburg/Bridgeport. So flew into Pittsburgh, found myself at the rental car spot, get in the rental car in another cannabis caravan I found myself in. This was I think I was in a Nissan Rogue, little mid-size SUV. So got in that, was on my way, riding along, whistling Dixie. Well, I wasn't whistling Dixie, but I was riding along. And I kept noticing on the street, on the signs, they were talking about snow squall. Now, I don't know what snow squall is. And then I think I do have a little bit of dyslexic situation going on because I thought it said snow squirrel initially. I thought the thing said snow squirrel. And I was like, I don't know what a snow squirrel is. And I definitely don't know what a snow squall is. Well, for those of you that don't know, snow squall is basically a snow thunderstorm. Like how a rainstorm just appears and it just dumps rain and keeps. That's what a snow squall is. And I had one of those happen. I'm 40 minutes into this ride, 2-hour ride to West Virginia. The bottom falls out and in the bottom of the freezer. Like it's snow. I'm driving in a winter wonderland and it's cold. I'm thinking at that point, it's probably 30 degrees, 29, 30 degrees. So not only is it snowing, stuff's starting to ice. Now, that's the dangerous part in these weather conditions. This is ice. You can deal with snow. But that ice, that's not what you want. Not the ice, baby. I'm not the brothers of A5A. So I don't want the ice. I want the dry. I want the clear. So the bottom falls out, snow everywhere. And I'm at least an hour, 20 minutes out. So I navigate my non-snow driving self into West Virginia. But it's bad in West Virginia. It's like it dropped. I made it to like a clear spot, but it was like there was some snow squall in West Virginia, in Clarksburg. So I get there and so I'm thinking I'm getting there around 4 because by the time I get to Pittsburgh, it's right at 1. You get your rental car and all that. My event's at 6. I get to the hotel after I get something to eat. I go to Panero. I feel like a Viking when I go to Panero Bread because they give you that slab of bread. I'm like, what the ale? You don't give me this big chunk of bread with no ale? I feel like I need some ale and a shield and a mace. I'm talking about maces quite often. But made to the room. It's like 4:00 at this point. My daughter, this is Friday night, so she had a performance. My daughter was in Oklahoma, the musical Oklahoma at her school. It was a musical, so she was singing and dancing. So I get to the hotel, get myself situated, talk to my daughter before her presentation. And man, that snow is falling, ice, roads, everything. So by the time I leave the hotel to go over to the event, I put it in my GPS. It was 8 minutes. But then after all the weather conditions, that 8 minutes changed to like 23 minutes. But I was still game. I told the folks, I communicate when I get into town with my point of contact, because that's one thing you got to learn. Sometimes I don't do it as well as a job when I get into town of alleviating the nervousness, because people are like, is he here yet? Where is he at? I hadn't heard from him. So I did a better job I didn't do a good job on Thursday, because they were texting me on Thursday as I was driving to the event. They were like, what's your ETA? What time you expect to be there? It's like, yeah, like 6 minutes, but I can't text you back because if I get off the map, I don't know where I'm going. So I just won't respond. I'm just very quiet right now. So then they won't hear from me. Then they'll contact the folks that work for me, and then they contacted me. So I just need to make sure I let folks know when I get to the hotel, when I'm leaving, what time I'm anticipating being at the event. That's on me sometimes, because I'm just trying to know what jokes I'm going to tell to be funny. I'm not thinking about what time I'm going to get to the venue. But I told her, I said, hey, I'm leaving. Saying 8 minutes, but it says 23 minutes. And said, well, so she was like, oh, there's no problem. We're going to start a little late. We getting texts and stuff from people just having some difficulty finding their way in. I was like, oh, okay. And I was game. I got in my little car. I got my little Nissan Rogue, but it was ice in the parking lot. It was at the Spring Hill Suites. I enjoy Spring Hill. I don't know if that's a Marriott property. I don't know what property is. That's one thing I haven't been doing. I'm starting to do now. I've been doing status on flights. I haven't been doing status in hotels. I'll be everywhere. I'll be everywhere, man. I'll be in the Hampton Inn, Holiday Inn. I'll be in the Staybridge Suites, the Embassy Suites, the DoubleTree. It don't matter. So I'm starting to be a little bit more intentional about that Marriott Bonvoy. I think I like those Marriott Bonvoy properties, but I do like some of the Holiday Inn. I like that Hotel Indigo. I like that. There's a couple of hotels. The Westin. I like the Westin. I don't know what property they involved with, but so there's certain places that I just want to get close to the venue. I don't really have a lot of preference in that regard, but I'm now starting to be more mindful. Even what's the thing? The Hilton Garden Suites. The Hilton Garden Inn Suites. I enjoy. And one of the things I've been doing is letting other folks book rooms, and they getting the points. I'm like, no, let me get my points. Let me take my points. And then I got to put your last name in to get on the internet. I don't know your last name. I need my last name. Know the people's last name, but I digress. So yeah, I walk out the Staybridge Suites, and the rows are a mess. So now, like I said, it went from 8 minutes to like 23 minutes, and it's taking me into the thick. It's taking me into where everybody at, and it don't look good. So I pull out to head over to the venue, and I'm driving along. Now, roads are icy, because especially when I made the left, I don't think it was a lot of traffic going that way. I noticed up the road, it's a car kind of stopped in the middle of the road. So I stopped and let them do whatever they did. So they must have hit a little ice patch, because they were kind of slipping and slide. So they made a little turnaround. I said, oh, man, I'm a soldier through. And I hit that same little ice spot in my car. So I got my foot on the brake, but it's still moving. It's still doing a little electric slide. And I said, you know what? yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do this. No, player, I'm gonna take this on and park this. I'm park this. They're gonna have to send somebody over here to get me. Cause I won't, yeah. I felt no confidence when my tire and I had my foot on the brake and my car was still moving. I said, nah, bro, we gonna go park this playboy. So I went, did a little slippy slide, 3-point turn. Then I kind of went by the hotel so I had to go and turn around and did another little slippy slide. I said, yeah, we about to park this. And so I called him back, said, hey, I would probably feel a little more comfortable if you send somebody over. I don't have the wherewithal to be in a place to navigate this ice and get up and tell jokes. So I just I'll leave the joke telling part to me and y'all take care of the driving. So they sent a guy, Pastor Josiah came over. He's from the area. He had no issues getting us to where we need to be. Plus, the roads that he chose were clear. I didn't know those roads. The GPS was taking me to the unclear roads, the very icy roads. So he came, picked me up, and got back to the venue, had a great night. Great night. But I was a little concerned about the get back because I still had to get back to Pittsburgh, and I knew it was going to be a little icy getting out of the hotel. So I decided to get up a little bit earlier than normal to this because it was a 2-hour drive. I think my flight boarded at like 6:20. So I said, man, I'm going to get up at 2:30. Hopefully be on the road at 3, give myself 2 hours. Now, here's the other issue I have with travel. For whatever reason, I don't know if this is a conspiracy, there's something happening with the government and the airlines, but it's very seldom that you find an airport close to a gas station. The gas stations are always nestled somewhere. It's not evident. Like if I'm driving to church, I'm going to pass 4 or 5 gas stations without a problem. Not when I drive to airports. If I drive to airports, now Columbia is a little bit different because when you get off on the exit, there is gas stations right there on that first stretch. Now, once you turn off into quote unquote Airport Boulevard, there's no more gas stations. But at least coming off the interstate, going to the airport, you gonna pass gas station. That's not the norm. Like I just really get frustrated because I'm just like, oh, I'm driving to the airport. By virtue of driving to the airport, I feel like I should drive by a gas station. It's like, no, you are not. You're not going to drive. And it's not just gas stations. There's nothing. Like a lot of these places, you're not going to pass a restaurant, a fast food joint. It's just Airport Boulevard. And so no hotel. Like it's just wow. So I knew I had to like get off on a little beaten path and find a gas station, which I did in a little sketch part because it wasn't no lights on. Like most times there's like 24-hour gas stations. This place, the gas stations will work, the pumps were working, but it was, man, I'm always, my head's on a swivel, but that would have been one of the moments if 4 or 5 guys just pulled up on me. Hey, man, which I won't. What you want? I got to give it to you because I'm compromised. So I had to get back on the road and make that trek back into Pittsburgh, which worked out really well. No issues, no concerns. Made it back to Pittsburgh, got on the flight, Pittsburgh to Atlanta, Atlanta to Columbia, South Carolina. So I made it back in Saturday morning, around 10 maybe, and went to get my butt in the bed because I had to take my son to the Tennessee, South Carolina game. That's why my voice may seem like it's taking a little hit because I kept yelling. It's another Carolina first down. That's boy. If you at a game, I'm a fan. Like I'm a South Carolina fan through and through. I don't talk about it. I don't bother people. I'm in my own little fandom. I don't text people. I don't post stuff on social media about other people's teams. I've been that guy. I've been through the aggravating friend. Your team lose, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna text you. I don't do that. I mind my business over here with my fandom, my sports team. I go to the games when I can. I support however I do. I listen to the post game interview, all the stuff. I'm actively fanning. I'm an active fan. I'm a participant. I don't listen to talk sports radio like I used to. I had to get out of there with the crazies. But I think I have a pretty healthy allegiance to my sports teams, even if they're bad, even when they're bad. And our teams have been bad. And I tell, on the road, because people I say, you're a fan of South Carolina. So I try to stay out of like these going back and forth. Somebody say you're a fan of South Carolina. I was like, unfortunately, I'm a fan because I want to disarm people. I want you to feel like now you got to get into a thing with me. I do the self-deprecating fan stuff. I'm like, my life's so good. I got to have something in it that's not working well. Like, I don't want the discussion. Now, if you want to just have a regular conversation about your team in sports, that's fine. But yeah, man, my allegiance and that's why I always wonder, like, do people think you gonna turn me? You say this about my team, you say that about my team, and I'm like, you right. I'm gonna put it in the application to become a fan of the team that you like. Like, yeah, man, I'm a fan. I'm a fan beyond sports. The University of South Carolina was my dream school once I started reorientating myself to school. I wish I would have known in high school because I was a trash student. I've said this before. I'm trash. So by the time I got out, I was looking to get out of the military. I signaled, I kind of, realized, oh man, I'm gonna come back home. And so I went on college tour. I went on college tour in South Carolina, and it was beautiful. Like, it was all the things. It was just like, oh, I can't wait to be an undergraduate here. And they said no. They said no. They hit me with the Destiny Child. No. Me say yeah. And I wasn't devastated because I had some other options. I ended up having a great undergraduate experience. But if I want to be honest with myself, I would have wanted to been accepted at University of South Carolina. I could have transferred. But once, I'm a loyal guy. So once, Lander was where I attended undergrad, Lander, they accepted me, all my flaws. Matter of fact, this is probably what was the benefit of Lander versus the University of South Carolina. The University of South Carolina was evaluating my transcript. They were looking solely at my transcript. They were looking solely at my test scores, and my transcript was awful. Like, I wasn't a good student by any stretch of the imagination. Lander, they took into account my transcript, my test scores, but then they realized that, hey man, this guy has not been in high school for 4 years. So there's a gap of time for 4 years. What has he been doing? Oh, he was in the Army. Okay, let's look at this Army stuff that he submitted. So there was an additional, oh, okay, yeah, we recognize that this transcript is not impressive, but for 4 years, this guy's been serving in the military. He was in Korea. He was a Fort Stewart in Georgia. He got these Army accommodation medals. He has these great letters of recommendation that was sent in from the, leadership that he worked with. And on the University of South Carolina, they it's more numbers. It's a numbers game. So they have, if they can get an easy no, that's how admissions often work. If you can get an easy no, we're gonna get those folks out of the way. So we're gonna grapple with some other folks in terms of like making the yes. This is a person on the borderline. I was an easy no, and that was my fault. So I was an easy no, but I was in love. Like, I walked that campus, that man, I was like, oh, I can't. So I did ultimately return to the University of South Carolina as a graduate student and got my master's from there. But if I'm honest with myself, one of my disappointments or regrets is that I didn't go to the University of South Carolina as an undergraduate. I just did not put myself in the position to be accepted. And I would have wanted, again, I think the transfer thing, that's a conversation I probably had myself. But once Lander was like, yeah, we see who you are. And then I got accepted to this presidential Landers leadership. Lander is LPLP, Landers Presidential Leadership Program. I got involved with that. They basically selected 30 students, freshman students, to be a part of a year-long leadership intensive. And there may have been, I don't know how many students applied, but let's say 100 students applied, or it's more than 30 students applied. There were more students applied than the slots that were available. And I thought that was something that I was grateful for that opportunity, and I made some great bonds. So I never really seriously considered transfer. Now, if I went to land there and it was like, oh, this place stinks, get me out of here, and I probably would have went to Carolina. But so I went to the game as a fan, and I was cutting up. I cut up. If you, I know Tennessee fans, they don't like sitting by me or any team. Like if my team winning, and I'm not doing a bunch. We got a whole towel waving thing going. We got the whole, is another Carolina third down. And I was doing this all night. I was doing it all third down. So that's what I was doing. So that's why my voice is suspect. All right, folks. I've done a very long on the road again. Let's get to the best advice ever segment. We're just going to be fast because Thanksgiving, holidays are coming up. And one of the challenges that we have during this time of the year is sometimes we connect with family members that it's challenging. We come from dysfunctional situations. I see a lot of this, and I'm kind of torn because I was doing some research about this topic, and basically I was saying how to get along with family members during the holidays, or how to get along with difficult family members. But the articles that kept coming up were saying how to deal with toxic family members. And it was this labeling of, hey, and maybe we do have toxic family. I know everyone has family members that are challenging, but I'm toxic family member from time to time. Like I have some toxicity. Like I don't know. I struggle a little bit with the labeling of people because we aren't all one thing. There's moments I've been toxic, but I'm not a toxic family member. I've had toxic behaviors. I've made toxic decisions. So I don't know, man. I did find that to be a little bit like, why is everybody labeling things like this? Just happened to me on my page, on my Facebook page. There's a video, and somebody made a post like, I'm very disappointed about your homophobic comments. I'm like, what? There's no homophobic comments. What? I'm homophobic now. Like, no, man. Why do we automatically just make people these things? So yeah, I'm gonna give you some quick advice on how to navigate the holidays with difficult family members, whether they're dysfunctional, toxic, whatever. I've been a part of extended families for the last 22 years, and I have a great extended family. Like my in-laws and my wife's family, they're great. The only challenge I have is driving to their location, and I just my wife's from a small town that's about 2 hours from where we live, and when we drive, I just like, man, it's one of the driest drives. It's just dry. It's a dry drive, and it pains me. I mean, there's so that we I've communicated my thoughts about this, but I have a great extended family. I'm probably the toxic person. I'm the person that came into this scenario that like, hey, they need to manage me because they very loving, good folks, just good, salt of the earth folks. And so these quick, I normally say the best advice ever, but I'm gonna give you three tips that hopefully will help you navigate the holiday season a little better. The first one, if you're finding yourself dealing with family members and you don't have, you find yourself getting into these issues and it's not a great experience. The first thing I would tell you is to social distance. Yeah. Social distance yourself from that particular. If there's one particular person that hits your triggers, that has all these smart comments, that always has shade, that always coming for you, that's always in their feelings, whatever these terminologies that we now use, social distance. So if they go in the living room, you need to go in the kitchen. If they're in the kitchen, you need to go in the living room. You need to keep it moving. Socially distance yourself from the person, because this is what I'm saying. If you've had conversation, if you've communicated how you feel, if y'all had discussion, and there still has been no resolution, then you got social distance. I'm not talking about avoiding people, ignoring people. What I'm saying is we've clearly communicated over the years. I've told you I don't like talking about that. I don't like when you bring that up. I don't like when you touch me. I don't like when you talk about my kids, whatever the issues are, well documented. Socially distance, saying, okay, when that person comes in here, or you find out what time they're coming, oh, that person coming from this time, get yourself mentally prepared. Say, hey, what time is Annie coming? Luli coming. Oh, Luli gonna be here at 12. We'll get there at 2. What time's dinner? Dinner's at 3:30. Okay, we gonna get there at 2:30. Give myself an hour. We got all this long time just hanging out. We got a cool hour. So social distance. Make sure you're on the move. If there's a person that you just know they exacerbate you, got social distance. The second thing is have a plan and communicate your plan before going in. Like I tell my wife, if we going to where she said, we was like, hey, we used to go to places. And again, the stuff that I would get all up in knots about, it wasn't people. It was just like, we would go to her parents' house, then we have to go to her grandparents' house, then we have to go to aunt. Like, it was just like all this movement. And I don't know. And it's not like, so like if I'm from Camden. So in Camden, we go to my parents' house, we drive 2 minutes, and we at my grandma's house, we drive another 6 minutes. We had this. No, you got to drive 2 hours, and then you got to drive another 15 minutes. Then you got to drive another 10 minutes. So let's have the plan. Hey, what we doing? Where we going? How many stops? What time we going to leave? Have all that stuff solidified and be clear. Like, all right, we're going to get there at 7 that morning, and we're going to leave at 3:30 that night or that evening. Or we're going to stay the night, and we're going to leave the next day at lunch. Like, so be clear to communicate your expectations and what you're thinking. Sometimes in relationships especially, you can have a plan, but you have not shared your plan. So not only have you created a plan, but please communicate your plan. So that's the second tip. Create and communicate. C&C, create and communicate. And even to the smallest detail, the most minute piece of information. And then the last one I would say, and this one you probably don't want to hear, because this is a little old school right here. This is a little old school. This is the number 3, how to navigate through difficult family members. Grin and bear it. Just grin and bear it. I've been thinking a lot about, where I am in my life and family members. And the honest truth of many things, I've had therapy. I've been involved in some high level mindset training and conferences and coaching and mentoring. And I just have some more information that some other folks don't have. And they may not know that to say that is disrespectful or it hurtful. Or just these folks are doing the best that they can do. And yeah, maybe they could be a little bit more empathetic and loving and a little bit more jovial. But life then dealt them a rough hand, and things haven't been going their way. And they may not even be angry with you. They're angry with their self when they see you, because they say, man, we came from the same place. We did the same stuff, and you doing so well. So in some of those instances, just grin and bear it, man. This will last 2 hours. It'll last a day. And honestly, man, you don't know how much longer you have with folks anyway. So just try to enjoy the time that you do have, because what they say, tomorrow's not promised to anyone. So grin and bear it. There's sometimes you might just want to bite your tongue. You don't have to get in an argument about everything. You don't have to correct everyone. You don't have to, be the advocate. Somebody say some outlandish, racist, misogynistic, homophobic, whatever the stuff is people to say. In some, I'm not saying condone bad behavior, but in some instances, hey, I probably wouldn't refer to them by using that term anymore. Grin and bear it. Don't go into all out war. Don't engage. And again, I'm talking about with folks who are not open. I'm not talking about reasonable folks. I'm not talking about folks that was like, oh, I'm glad you made that. No, I'm talking about folks that you've continually been at odds with. You've been continuously have had strife with. This is the Hatfield and McCoy type situation. I'm talking about this is long standing. And I just thought of a third one. Pray. A fourth one. Pray. This should be first. But pray before any of this. Pray before you even get into it. Not just to pray. Sometimes people pray this general prayers. Just pray specifically. Say, God, this wears me out to go back home and have dinner with these folks. Give me some grace and long suffering and understanding and humility to not have to defend myself and be right and correct everyone. I should start off with prayer. Like legitimately pray that you can bless the folks that you're going to spend time with, that you will be a blessing to this event. Not that you're going to endure this event, you're going to survive this event, you're going to make it through this event. No, you're going to go bless folks at this event. Yeah, that was fresh. That was fresh from the Lord right there. So pray, legit, go into some time of solitude and say, hey, what can I get out of this? What can I bring into this environment that would sow peace and harmony and love and support? So yeah, let's rearrange that. So let's make no more pray. Pray prior, before the event. Pray before you go and get a sense of peace, get a sense of calm. And then the new number two is social distance. Now you done prayed, but you still know the people that have quick access to your buttons. Some folks they got bloodstream button access. They go right to it. So social distance. The other one is have a create a plan and communicate it. That's the new number 3. And then number 4 is just to simply grin and bear it. Just get a little tougher skin. Let it roll off your back like water off a duck's back or whatever the expression is. But give a little bit extended grace. Just let people be who they are. Everybody hadn't had the tools and the information and the experience and the enlightenment that you've had. So hopefully these will help you navigate through your upcoming holiday season. Also, I want to make a note. I wrote recently about this in a email that some folks are having a hard time during the holidays. So keep that in mind. Everybody's not dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sled. There's some folks that's really hurting. So at least have that in the back of your mind. And this may be a difficult time for the person that you're interacting with. All right. So it's time to wrap up. Also, please send in your questions to Ask the Bowtie. You can send those to info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. But before I roll out, we got to do the what you're not going to do segment. Got a couple, keeping it brief. Number one, like I made mention to the Branson experience, the trip where I came down that morning at 3 a.m. to check out. Now, checking out, you can just leave your key and they can check you out later. But I needed to get my car from valet. That was the issue. I got down there was nobody behind the desk. There was a sign that said, "Hey, we'll return shortly. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you for your patience." I'm like, what you're not gonna do is throw off my timeline, man. Look, I gotta be back to catch this flight. And man, similar to when that girl recently tried to pick me up on Uber and kept riding in circles. I'm sitting there. I mean, I sat about 10 minutes, and then I started pushing buttons to like the snack room, and I started trying to figure out, okay. So then I end up calling the front desk because it was a convention center, so there was another part of the hotel. So I called that hotel, and they were like, "Oh, no one's there." No, so she's like, "I'll call," and then she called on walkie-talkie, but the walkie-talkie was right there at the front desk. It's like, so this woman shows up probably like 15 minutes later, basically like, "Oh, I went to change the tape," and ma'am, what you're not gonna do is have my whole travel situation thrown off. That's what you're not gonna do. Another thing that was real wild. So I went to the South Carolina Tennessee game, and so we're leaving, and there were some guys that pulled up beside us, and they pulled down the window. Was like, "Hey man," I pulled out my window. Was like, "Why you ain't got nobody in the car riding with you? That's a nice car." I'm like, "What? My son's in the back seat, man. Hey, what you not gonna do is sitting here this bumper to bumper traffic with this dumb question." I'm like, "What? Yeah, it's a nice car, man. You have somebody in there with you." Hey, man. And I don't think these people are drunk. I just think that this is what folks are concerned with. Other people's business, man. Thank y'all so much for checking in on another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. I'm your boy, Mike Goodwin. Please check me out on my social media accounts. You can find me at Bowtie Comedy on Instagram and Twitter. On Facebook, comedian Mike Goodwin. You can go to my website at MikeGoodwin.com. Also, please rate, subscribe, forward this to other folks, and let them know how much of a good time we're having over here on this podcast. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Peace.